Monday o'clock at around 7 p.m. So you know what time it is. It's time for your weekly episode of SCV Chat. Before we get started, please remember the views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the SCV, its GEC, nor a divisions, brigade, camps, or other subsidiaries. How is everybody doing in Dixieland tonight? We have a great episode for y'all planned. One I have been looking forward to for a while now, ever since I text Mr. Richard to come on. We are here to celebrate in the SCV Hispanic Confederate History Month. And what better way to do that than to hear about this history firsthand from an expert? I'm going to throw you on the bus and call you an expert.
All right. Armchair expert? Okay.
So I'm happy to have Mr. Richard here. I cannot wait for this program. He teased me before the show, telling me quick history bites for it. So I'm looking forward to this. And without further ado, I guess I don't think I have anything else to tell y'all before we get started on the show. Yeah, let's go into it.
Okay, so let me see. Let me give you a little bit of how this thing started. It started with me several years ago. I've been in SCV since 2019. Okay. It started when I went to the Wilson County Fair. Me and my wife did. Bum around. We wanted to go see the living history. And we ran into Dottie Meadows, OCR president, Tennessee OCR president. So she had a booth with some rebel flags and trinkets and stuff. So we were just talking to her. And then she goes, "Do you ever thought about joining SCV?" And I said, "Oh, I heard about it." And I go, "I wasn't sure about Hispanics in the Confederate Army." I go, "But my grandmother told me some stories, and my father told me some stories as well. But this is the first time I had one-on-one experience with someone, on the subject." Mm-hmm. So she sent me over to the Robert H. Hatton camp. They had a booth out there. So I talked to them, and they invited me to the meeting. And in the meantime, I was looking for some names like everybody else does, and I listened to them in the meeting, and they helped me with my lineage. And my wife was conveniently going to Washington, D.C. on her job. So she ended up at a Mormon tabernacle with the genealogy sites there. So she found someone, and she was a little bit envious because she was born in Biloxi and could not find an ancestor. And I'm over here. My ancestor comes from Mexico, and she found one. So that's how I started. So with support from my grandmother, who is 101 years old now. The video was made, I think 3 years ago, but she is still alive and she's 101. And it was her little stories, helped me get through all this and keep me going. But I started there, and I joined SCV under my great grandfather, Private Andres Taurus Rodriguez, the 8th Texas Infantry. And he served in the Battle of Galveston, the Battle of Corpus Christi, with 300 other Tejano soldiers, with under Mexican officers. So with that's how it started. And my program is primarily on Tejano, Texan Mexicans in the war. But this is Hispanic History Month. So I did some more research, and I have some people I picked out that I think they are significant. And I also wanted to celebrate my heritage by being a Tejano Confederate soldier. So I reached out to a person named Ruben Lopez from Texas. Ruben Cordova from Texas. And he does an impression of Santos Benavides in the 33rd Texas Cavalry with other Hispanic men in that cavalry. So I reached out to him via email, and he helped me with my uniform and stuff. So I want to give some kudos to Ruben and the Texas guys out there. So if you want to see, I go ahead. If you want to proceed with some pictures, or how do you want to do this from here?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Here is the first one.
Okay. This guy's name, Jose Agustin Quintero. He was an attorney, a journalist, and diplomat. He was born in Havana in 1829 to a Cuban tobacco planter and graduated from law school in Havana. When the Civil War started, he enlisted with Equipment Rifles Guard of Austin, Texas. He traveled to Richmond, Virginia, where he met Confederate President Jefferson Davis, and he was assigned the diplomatic corps, serving as confidential agent of the Confederate government in Mexico. He played a part in ensuring all the trade with Mexico and the United States, or Confederate States of America. What he did was the most significant success of a Confederate diplomat. Think about this. His negotiations with a Mexican governor named Santiago Videri revealed that Videri offered Jefferson Davis war materials and two Mexican states, Nuevo León and Coahuila, Mexican border states, to the Confederacy. Davis turned him down due to French occupation in Mexico. So think about this. If Jefferson Davis would have not turned him down, we would have had a 14 star in the battle flag. A Mexican star. That is reference. If anybody wants to look it up, I have a book that did a lot of this research. There was a lot of trading done with the Mexican government and the Confederate States on the Rio Grande. There was a lot. More than people think. There was ships coming in under European flagships, for example, French and England ships docking in Mexico. And in Mexico, it was crossing the Rio Grande, the same way the immigrants are crossing, the same way the cotton and supplies came over the Rio Grande. And from that, the trading was established due to Augustine. So the book I use for reference, it's a really cool book. It's called The Metamorphosed Trade, Confederate Commerce and Diplomacy and Intrigue. This is the book. If anybody can see it, no, it's too hard to tell. I don't know if you could see it.
Oh, it's coming in clear.
Yeah, okay. From here it's not, but it tells all the trading done. There's examples of warships being captured. For instance, a warship named the Lovebird had over 2,000 rifles, infils, supplies. It's documented in the manifest. So the Confederacy relied on Mexico for most of the supplies due to the heavy Union blockade in the Gulf and Atlantic. I mean, where else are you going to get supplies? We had blockade runners, but they couldn't get through, and they couldn't get through. So most of the supplies came in from Mexico across the border. Even the Confederate States engraving tools came across the border. So the soldiers in Texas, or Tejanos, were instrumental in bringing Confederate cotton across the border, and the supplies coming across. But the bad thing was the Mexicans were receiving the Confederate cotton, then selling them to New York and Boston. So it was full cycle. They were playing both sides. On it was money. Everybody making money. You give me the cotton, I'll give you your guns. I trade them for more guns in up north. So it was just everybody was making money off this cotton. The King family made the money off the cotton. The King family had river barges hauling cotton. That's how they made their money as well. So there was a lot of activity going on there. A lot of the Tejanos served in various units throughout the CSA, and they pretty much were in every major battle. And that's one of my program topics on my program. It's too hard to go into heavy detail, but that's what I talk about the most is the Tejano soldiers. Okay, we can go to the next photograph if you want.
All right.
Okay, let me get to him. I have him right. All right. This guy's name is Ambrosio Jose Gonzalez. He was a colonel, Jose Ambrosio Gonzalez. He was a Cuban revolutionary. He was born in Cuba, Matanzas, Cuba. He attended the University of Havana, where he earned degrees in art and sciences and later in law. He returned to Cuba and became a teacher and later a professor for the University of Havana. But the cool thing about this guy is Gonzalez, serving under Beauregard, was a colonel in the Confederate States Army during the war between the states, as I stated, and served as the chief artillery in the Department of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. In other words, he was there when the first shots were fired at Sumter. Chief of Artillery, South Carolina, Cuban. hear about that one before?
No, and that's one of the things, and we'll talk about this a bit later on in the show.
Okay.
But it's so sad that people try to bury these stories just so they can have their own narrative about the South, and it crushes not only history but everybody's personal history and heritage. And that's one reason I've been looking forward to this, is because so many people, including myself, I'll throw myself into that, had no idea has even served in the war.
Yeah.
And to figure that out, it's like, wow, that's awesome. More about this, because I don't know anything about it.
What I feel the most important thing is every person has a story to tell, regardless if it's Hispanic, Irish, Black, Native American. Every person has a story to tell. They should tell it.
Amen.
Tell everybody, even if they don't listen or not, tell it. You know, I've been to a lot of camps, and a lot of guys have a good stories to tell, and I go, wow, really? They did this, you know. These are very interesting stories. It's human nature stories that people need to hear. The public need to hear, not just
Amen.
us, the public, you know.
Yes, I agree. We all got a story to tell, and we need to tell it. Yeah, Monuments Across Dixie. This is something what mainstream media won't tell you.
Correct.
They also had this comment. I'm just going to throw that up there real quick. We should make a 14-star battle flag just to see what it looks like. I do agree with this. I would like to see how that design would look. But carrying on to your next picture here,
Okay.
we have this gentleman here.
Okay, this gentleman, it's one of my favorites. He's the Lone Star State's one of the greatest military leaders in the War of Northern Aggression, Santos Benavides. There is a book called The Tejano Tiger by Jerry Thompson, details his exploits. He believed in the Southern cause. He believed when he was fighting, involved in the Mexican Revolution, he believed that the concept of states' rights was practical and acceptable, and he was very instrumental in the secession of Texas. He was, I'm going to get something from him. He was very important to the Confederacy. This is from our program. The Confederacy realized how important it was for them to have the support of Benavides and his Tejano regiment in the dark corner of the Confederacy. He and the Tejano population he represented were the Confederacy of the Rio Grande, as they were the sole defenders of the extreme southern flank of the Confederacy during 1863 to 1864. I mean, you got to think about that. The southern flank. What was the southern flank on the Rio Grande? There was no one else. Him and his 33rd Cavalry was Anglo soldiers, Native Americans, and Tejanos. So, his war cry was "Viva Benavides!" His troops, "Viva Benavides" and "Viva la Confederación." That was their rebel yell.
Ooh.
And in one of his muster cards, which I have, it states on the card, it states the commanding the line of the Rio Grande. And his muster cards are in full 3 if you want to look at them. They're all there. But it's really cool. It states that. In the Battle of Laredo, he repelled 3 Union heavy attacks and arranged for the safe patches of Texas white gold across the Rio Grande, cotton. Okay. He had there was 5,000 bales in the Confederate cotton stacked as barricades in the St. Augustine Plaza in Laredo. He had men serving as snipers on rooftops and corrals, anticipating the attack. And his unit consisted of 42 Tejano soldiers fighting against the 2nd Texas Union Cavalry of 200 soldiers, which were 100 Tejanos, brother against brother. 3 times the Federals charged, and eyewitness reported that Benavides and his men fought with the coolest bravery, and the Bluecoats were repulsed by the vigorous fire of my gallant men. Okay. Nightfall, the Unionistas, unions in Texas, or the Hispanics call it Unionistas for unions. Virginian soldiers, they retreated back into Mesquite. Well, you got to think about this. There was 5,000 bales of cotton. They were worth $100 a bale. Okay, so this stockpile was worth $500,000 in their day. Okay, okay. If you added inflation calculators to this, that $100 per bale is equal to $3,000 in today's standards. That stash would be worth $15 million in today's money. This cotton was the lifeblood of the Confederacy. Okay. So this is Santos. That's his little story, and I go in detail in my program, but he was one of the main guys for secession, and 200 victories, never defeated in battle. There are stories and reports out there that he was designated to receive a promotion to a general, but the war ended. The paperwork was lost. There's a lot of stories out there. There are theories and stories. Some people say, I read an article. In Mexico, they were calling Benavides general in the newspaper accounts. Some papers called him a general, in South Texas. Some didn't. The Mexican papers did. But so there's stories floating around that he was, but there's no proof ever that that was nominated to be a general. But also, too, is what other colonel covered 700 square miles of desert?
I don't think anybody else.
I don't think so either. 700 square miles. It was his territory to cover, his range. So that's just one story. That's a story, just documented. But that's just something. I mean, just the thought of bringing cotton across for supplies, that's good enough. That's good enough to keep the Confederacy going back and forth. Okay, what's the next picture? This guy's pretty cool. His name is we have Jose Vasquez, 8th Texas Infantry, Company C. He served with my great-grandfather. A person I met on Facebook, his name is Adam Bonilla, posted this picture, and it's been unidentified many, many years, and it's in a private collection. But I saw this picture, and he posted, and I go, hey, he goes, this picture is identified now. I go, by whom? By my grandmother or my great-grandmother. I go, they were going through her stuff in her trunk, and they found this picture, and it was his ancestor. It's been identified as Jose Vasquez, 8th Texas Infantry, Company C. Young Mexican boy with an infield. It looks kind of cool. I like it.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
There it goes.
Okay. My great-grandfather served under this gentleman. His name is Captain Jose Angel Navarro III, 8th Texas Infantry. He was born in San Antonio. Well, he was born in San Antonio de Bejar, Mexico, before Texas was, let me rephrase that. When Texas annexed, this was annexed in the War of Mexican War. It was Texas was Mexican land, and he's Harvard's only Tejano Confederate soldier. Okay, let's.
That is white trousers.
Huh. Yeah, from Huntsville Penitentiary in Texas. They're undyed. They're white trousers, and they came from Huntsville Penitentiary in Texas, and they were not dyed.
That's a neat little fact that I'm so glad someone. I think who was that? My father pointed that out in the comments.
Yeah.
He asking a question about the white trousers. That's pretty cool. Someone asked about your flag. We'll get to that question, Corey, in a minute. We're close to the flag now. Art, we could go ahead and talk about your flag if you want.
The flag in the background is 8th Texas Regimental flag. has the Lone Star in the middle representing Texas and Texas' secession, and the remaining stars are the Confederate States.
Just a beautiful flag, too. I mean, very beautiful. And speaking of beautiful flags, I got to segue for my ads now, for our sponsor. Southern Flags and Quilts have some beautiful flags. Wow, that was probably my most shameless plug for a sponsor. Link in the chat for Southern Flags and Quilts. Southern Flags and Quilts is a Southern company that has designed some beautiful flags. Just to show you guys a few, here are a couple. Just amazing work for. They have some for the mechanized cavalry. They have this Mississippi one here. This beautiful cotton one here. Someone explained to me that the story behind that flag, and I've gone blank, sadly. And we got one from Louisiana, 2nd Louisiana Cavalry. And we have a Forest and a 7th Tennessee. Those are some high-quality flags made in the South, people. They're not made up north. They're not made overseas. They're made in our backyard in Alabama, what many people call the heart of Dixie. That depends on which state you're from. We all have a lot of bit of state pride here. So make sure you go support Southern Flags and Quilts for some great quality, historically accurate flags, and thank them for being our lovely sponsor. Now, without further ado, we have some more great stories to hear. So let's jump straight back into the topic. So I think that this gentleman was next.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. His name is David Camden de Leon. They called him the Fighting Doctor. He was the first Hispanic to graduate from Ivy League school. In 1864, he became the Surgeon General of the Confederate States of America. Another Cuban person.
Just how awesome is that? And again, something else you don't hear. A Cuban man was Surgeon General. No one talks about that. And that is such a shame, and such great stories and great history has been lost because people don't want to acknowledge it. And I'm just so happy that I have basically at this point conned you on here so I can hear these stories.
There's a lot of stories out there, you know. I mean, I was referencing my book, Hispanics, Confederates, and I think you have a picture coming up down the road. But there was, for example, I was going through the book, and I counted about 30 Tennesseans, Hispanic Tennesseans that fought in Tennessee. Alabama had over 100 Hispanic soldiers, Mississippi as well, Georgia as well. You know, so they're out there. A lot of the stories are just regular men fighting to defend their home, defending the South. You know, probably most of them are, but these are the ones I thought that officers, you know, that they're highlighted. But, you know, like I said, everybody has a story. You know, we got to tell it.
Amen. Amen. Here is the next guy.
This guy, his name is Colonel Leonidas M. Martin. If you look at his name, his name is Martin. No, it's Martin. That's how you say it. He's the commander of the 5th Texas Partisan Rangers. He was a farmer, merchant, and tavern owner. This photograph is also confused as listed him as an Alabama soldier or with another name. But the source I read, I think I have it right. Not to disrespect somebody else's story. I'm just going what I read, you know.
Oh, yes, sir. Oh, okay. I've been wanting to know more about this guy ever since you talked a bit about him behind the scenes.
Where is it? This guy is Captain Manuel Ituri y Castillo, 3rd Texas Infantry. He is a brother-in-law of Rafael Jose de la Garza. There was a book called Tejanos in Gray by Jerry D. Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
This story, the book is comprised of war letters between him and his brother or brother-in-law and in both their families. And it's interesting because Jose's letters, he's telling his family he wants to come home. I miss you. What is going on at home? My wife, Mom, nobody's writing me letters. But this other guy here, his brother-in-law is different animal. He's demanding answers from his wife. Where's our money? Who are you selling our farm, our crop to? I need a trunk of clothes. I need, estimates of how much our crops can yield. It's all business. It's kind of sad though. His brother-in-law, Jose, was killed in Mansfield. He outlived him, I think, 40, 50 years. But he's a prominent Texan. I think he's half German and half Hispanic.
Wow. Awesome.
This person was Jose Rafael de la Garza, 17th Texas Infantry. He led a charge in Mansfield during the Red River Campaign, and he was hit above the knee and he bled out in the battlefield. He is the other half of the story, Tejanos in Gray. Let's see, I have the book here. You might have a picture of it coming up. But this book
yes,
here,
I got it right here.
Yes. So this again is a story. They're war letters. Both of them seen some hard things in their battle. There's one example in detail, and I looked it up on Google. I think Ituri witnesses an execution of a Confederate officer because he wouldn't cross the river. So they pulled him out, charged him with desertion, and hung him. And it describes the actual scene of this, bounded on a wagon with his coffin to the gallows. So they're pretty good war stories.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll definitely have to get that. We'll again swing back to the books in a minute. We're almost about to get ready to talk about resources, and then we'll take a Pop-Tart break.
Okay.
And kind of just answer some questions.
This photograph, I think, is one of the. It's a cluster of Tejano soldiers or officers. It's Refugio Benavides, that is Santos' brother, with fellow Confederate soldiers. Vidari, Cristobal Benavides, another brother, and John Levendecker. These are, I think, a group of men, the 33rd Texas Cavalry, they did battle on the Rio Grande. But I like this picture. It's pretty cool. 4 officers, 2 of them are Hispanic, and I think one's a German, and I'm not sure the other person what ethnicity is. But I think it's pretty cool. These are the only ones you usually see about Hispanic soldiers. Is this group picture with Benavides? I think it's a pretty cool picture.
Yeah, I like it. For some reason, it's an eye catcher, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Most
is.
of my generation does. That picture just popped. Speaking of a picture that pops, I love the story behind it that you told me. So I've been dying to dive into detail on this one.
Okay. Look closely at this picture or war sketch. Mm-hmm. This sketch was sketched out by a person named Iwanski. Okay, this was the very first war sketch for Harper's Weekly. The whole country, CSA and USA, were yearning for pictures of the war. They were yearning for photographs, pictures, and sketches. The only one that was distributing war stories was Harper's Weekly in local newspapers. But Harper's Weekly used this war sketch. But if you look closely, look at the pickets. They're dark-skinned men. Sombrero. There's one getting some water. There's one there squatting down wearing a sombrero, and he's gutting a javelina, intermingled with the Anglo soldiers. It shows them probably celebrating and getting ready to eat with a stolen Union-covered wagon. But it's cool. I mean, can you imagine the very first war sketch that come out of Harper's Weekly shows Tejano soldiers with Anglo soldiers side by side, sharing a meal, sharing drink, breaking bread together, and fighting together. I like the sketch.
Oh, I love it. And it just shows even more. You know, as you said, it's one of the first, isn't it? You said
the first
sketch. Yeah, the first sketch to come out when the war started. And right off the bat, it shows how it was put in this before by one of our guests on the show. Multicultural, I think he said, army that the Confederates had. Just multiple people from different backgrounds, different religions, different races, and people deny all that today. But again, the first sketch to come out of the war debunks that automatically. And I just love this. First off, I loved when you brought it, you telling it to me behind the scenes, and it glued me to the screen. I was like, wow, that's the first sketch. I'm a geek like that, a history geek. I just love stuff like that. I love hearing, for some reason, it just pops for my generation. First to do this, first to do that. And so to hear first sketch, I was like, ooh, interest peaked automatically. But we'll be right back. We're going to hit a quick Pop-Tart break. We'll get right back into it. We have some sources to talk about with, let's see here, 4 great books lined up for us. Surprise, I think you said we'll be talking about it tonight. I don't know. So we'll see if we're good on that or not. Do you remember what surprise I'm talking about?
I think so. I think so.
Are we good to talk about that later? Okay. And so we have a surprise later on in the show.
Well, little surprise.
We'll probably just get some questions from the ChatHeads.
Okay.
And just talk about Hispanic Confederates.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it. We're going to take a quick Pop-Tart break. And before we get into that, where is he? There he is. Tonight's Pop-Tart break is sponsored by past Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney Jr. Past Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney Jr. has written some great books these past couple years. In General Beauregard's Defense is the most recent. It proceeds like a court case ending General Beauregard. And, of course, General Beauregard has been under scrutiny since very closely after the war. He has probably been targeted for a very long time. So our past Commander-in-Chief stepped up to the plate and defended General Beauregard. The next book would be On to Vicksburg, a great tale about Vicksburg and the Central Railroad campaign. And to my knowledge, the only book on the Yazoo Pass expedition. So all great books, all by a past Commander-in-Chief of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And the link for all this is in the chat if it will load. So I will pop that up in there. Let's see. There we go. So link it for in the chat. Again, let us thank our past Commander-in-Chief, Larry McClooney Jr., for sponsoring our Pop-Tart break for the night. And remember, ChatHeads, you can go to www.larrymcclooney.com to get one of these books.
My dad told me he always had a kinship to the battle flag. Always growing up, he knew there was something there, but he couldn't put it together. I called my 97-year-old grandmother, and I asked her, do we have any soldiers in the family? I gave her 3 descriptions. Verde, which means green for modern-day soldier. blue, azul, or gris means gray. And she said, mijo, which means my son in Spanish, is gris. It was gray. My great-great-grandfather was named Andres Taurus Rodriguez. He was born in Mexico. He was a laborer. And he was an 8th Texas Infantry. And his unit later on got incorporated to the Texas 33rd Cavalry under Santos Benavides, who was the highest Mexican-American Confederate officer. He was a colonel. There was over 13,000 Hispanic soldiers throughout the Confederate States, but out of those 13,000 were 2,500 Tejanos. And it's 2 words combined. Texas in Spanish is Tejas. Mexican in Spanish, Mexicano. You combine both words, Tejano. They contributed a lot for Southern independence. I think that they deserve respect, honor, and dignity under the Confederate flag that they fought for. There was people of color, Mexican people, and other Hispanics, and other people of color that fought in this war. Everyone's reason was different, but primarily they fought in this war for their independence and to protect their homeland. I joined the SCV because I'm extremely proud of my Confederate heritage. I have Confederate DNA. I just want to ensure that the present generation and future generations know and never forget the contributions of Hispanics in the War of Northern Aggression. I am Richard Luna Garcia, the great-great-grandson of Private Andres Taurus Rodriguez, a Tejano Confederate soldier.
Now, I got to brag on that commercial there for a minute, because as you know, it is tradition that if I have someone on the show that was in a Faces video, there's a 9 out of 10 chance I will play that video for the Pop-Tart break on the very episode you're starring in. But not only is it a great commercial, but I wanted to bring this up to the chat heads, and I think a lot of people know about this. I don't know if I actually told you about this, though, Mr. Richard, is that we every now and then SCV Chat will post on our social medias one of the Faces videos. When we learned that October was going to be Hispanic Confederate History Month, we saved your video for this month specifically. And so when we posted it just almost a week ago, Wednesday will be a week. In less than a week, we reached on our social media pages almost 16,000 people. That is just phenomenal. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. But I also want to brag about the comments that got posted on there. I had no idea. I had no idea that Hispanics fought in the war, or teaching me history. I had no idea this happened. Amazing video. Thank you for standing up for your heritage. Served, and he was a Native American, and it was this door for a great discussion in the chat where it was posted, of just discovering more history. People ask questions, most of them asking where they could learn more this history, and we're about to get into that with some great books. And I told them to basically watch tonight's episode. So again, I put this all on you. The more you watch the show, you'll realize I just throw every guest under the bus over and over again, live on air. Being like, all right, well, tonight you're an expert. Yeah, what?
Okay.
But, I just wanted to brag about that video because it is done outstanding, and I wanted to let you know that just you and that has opened a door for historical thought that some people probably would have never been exposed to.
Well, thank you very much. Also, too, I want to thank past Commander Clooney. It was his idea, and he asked me to do this. I think a couple of years ago. So, I owe it to him.
Well, y'all did a fantastic job. And again, it just exposes people to history that they had no idea existed. And if that's not what we need to be doing in this organization, I don't know what is.
Yes. Well, I agree too. My wife and myself, we're reenactors of the Third Mississippi.
Mhm.
Hey, everybody, go to the fall muster.
Yes,
Okay,
go to fall muster.
go
You
for
can
fall
fall
muster.
into the third Mississippi. We'll be
Yeah,
happy to have you.
and fall in the dirt with fire ants. Uh, but we also do a live in history. We were at the I think the John Rayburn camp in Alabama. Uh, we couldn't participate in the Battle of Scoring Creek because I had a DEC meeting to attend, but we did a live in history event, and because Crossville was predominantly high in Hispanic families, so
Mhm.
we did a live in history on this subject matter. And we talked about, we have a display board, and all these kids, Anglo kids, Hispanic kids, were all surrounding us. I had my musket as a prop. They like the guys like that. But we also pass out these educational cards. I don't know if you can see them. The photographs you have on the screen, we have cards on them, and these are just the tip of the iceberg. Uh, we have a whole bunch of them. More Hispanic soldiers, unidentified, some unidentified, some not. So in the back of the cards, they're bios that I was reading. You can't, I don't know if you can see it, but there's bios. So
Mhm.
we passed the cards out to these kids and to the teachers. So everybody got a card. I want one. I want one. Okay. And then we asked the kids, what does your card say and who is it? So they read it back to us, which, like you said, encouraged discussion. And the
Mhm.
teachers told us we don't have no curriculum to teach this subject, and they didn't even know this topic. How bad it was too is a lot of these Hispanic kids didn't know either. So it was a really good day, and then afterwards, the men of Northeast Alabama Brigade, there were some camps there selling Confederate paraphernalia. These kids bought it all up. They're walking around with battle flags, these little thumper bats, with the
Mhm.
battle flag, stick the Confederate Southern history sticker on their plastered over them. They got on the school bus, went back to campus. So it worked. And then
That's
I got emails from the teachers the next day. He goes, thank you for the cards. We took them home. We made assignments. Look them up, and we'll discuss the next day. So the teachers were thanking me for this information. So it could be done with anybody. So if anybody, it could be done with anybody. So we have to again tell our story, regardless of our Hispanic soldiers, the great Irishmen that fought in their battles, Native Americans. We have to tell the story to
Mhm.
anybody, especially when we're selling things. Recruit at the same time and tell the story, because it's going to absorb that one little kid you see. It's going to remember, and he's going to tell their parents and their friends, and that's how it starts. We have a lot of enemies out there, but we got to hit the kids like that and get that one kid's going to dig the gun, dig the soldier, the uniform, and he's going to remember, and he's going to carry that until he could buy his own gun or join and tell his daddy, so that's where it starts. So this card program we did was a success. I did it there, and I did it with a Standing Stone Champ Ferguson camp, the Tennessee Division. They invited me 2 years in a row to do their Trail of History at the Monterey Depot, and it same things happened. They're fighting for the cards, and these just index cards we made up just to start a topic and discuss. Okay, so one way to
I think
get the story out there.
yes. That sorry to cut you
Oh,
off.
I'm done.
Please keep going. Uh, that was an amazing story, and as someone who I cannot wait to start teaching history. I I I have loved history since the moment I've been born, and my father started teaching it to me to now, and I'm so much. I can't explain how much I'm looking forward to being able to teach it. But hearing a story like that, that's the whole reason I want to teach is to teach something like that, something that is looked over, something that people don't know, and something that I would love to see is like the SCV get out a teacher curriculum and do something with that. I think
Correct.
that'd be a great idea to see that blossom. But
But you know what the good thing is?
yeah,
That these compatriots had in their mindset, we got to take advantage and do something there.
mhm.
Robbie May, I have it here. Robbie Mays, Captain John Rayburn Camp, 452. He saw this vision, and he called me to, can you help us out? I went. Uh, Champ Ferguson, Standing Stone, Camp 2014. Jack Looper had the same vision. Hey, we got a lot of Hispanic kids up here. Can you come up and do your deal? So I want to thank them. So it starts from from the compatriots in every camp, and they build the resources from there. But I want to thank those two men and the men from the Northeast Brigade of Alabama. They're all great guys. They were thrilled. A lot of their stuff was sold, and their mission was a success at the Battle of Squirm Creek. Looking forward to next year.
Oh, that's awesome. These are some awesome
Yeah.
stories. Oh, I know I'm grinning from ear to ear on this camera, but like that is just such an amazing story to just see kids so happy to learn and the teachers coming up and being like, "Wow, we had no idea. Let me
Yeah,
see
correct.
these note cards."
Oh yeah, they
Uh,
were thanking. I mean, it was weird. I mean, this is just, and they just, well, thank you very much. Our kids loved it. We just didn't know this story,
mhm.
so it's one person at a time.
Amen. One person at a time. Never underestimate the work that does. Carl Jones, who is our host next week, uh, gave you a great comment. He says, "Your
Oh,
research and contributions to preserving our history is immeasurable. This is great information. Thank you for keeping the contributions of these men alive." And I have to second that. I hope everybody in the chat will second that. Thank you
well, thank
for
you,
all the
Carl.
work you've done to keep our history alive and
Oh
keep what
yeah,
these men did alive. Because that is probably one of the biggest disgraces of the modern day changing the narrative of all this is they have, in order to change it to make our side look like the typical bad guy, you have to wipe out some of these men. And it's just so sad because, again, the stories that my generation doesn't get to hear are the next. And it just keeps getting worse and worse until there's nothing left of that history. And that history needs to be preserved, and these men need to be kept alive through their history.
oh correct. We have to take the narrative away completely.
Hmm.
You know,
Amen.
we have to, um, and it's going to require every SCV competitor to tell their story. And put each guy on a pedestal to tell it. The men just have to
Amen.
tell it, and they'll be put on a pedestal to tell the true story, and then from there it will go far.
Amen. We're going to get into the books real quick
Oh, okay.
for resources that you for
Oh yes.
use, and of course, just to tell everybody a bit about the book and maybe some more good studying tips from you
Okay.
to learn more about this history. So we already talked about this one. Is there
Yes,
anything
we
else?
talked about that. The war stories between brother-in-law, brothers-in-law about their experiences in the war, and there is a letter in there also too when Jose Rafael de la Garza was killed in battle, and how his brother-in-law had to tell his family.
That is not. Ooh, bless his heart.
Yeah, and these were all in Spanish too, so they were translated by Jerry Thompson, who was the premier expert on Tejano Confederate soldiers. He's a professor at Texas A&M.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
awesome!
yeah. Most of these books are his books.
Wow.
Yeah,
See, it's something else I didn't even know, and that's one of the things I love about being on the show is I get to learn stuff along with the chat.
and
Uh,
those are Hispanic Confederates. It's there's 13,000 naval, Marines, sailors, officers, and Confederate soldiers that fought in the war. It's like a phone book of names and where they fought. So it's a good source. It's a good source of names. So, you know, I when I meet a guy, they give me a last name. For example, I met a guy at the UDC reunion that I was attending Friday, and the commander, I didn't meet him, but the commander talked about him. His last name is Garcia. So I pulled up a PDF. It's first edition PDF, and it was done by John O'Donnell Gonzalez, an Alabama compatriot. He passed away several years ago of cancer. It was his book, but he has a PDF out there. If you search for Hispanic Confederates, you could seem to find the PDF. But it's about lists 3/4. That edition lists 3/4 of what the most recent edition has. But when I showed some photographs of the Garcia name, there was 3.5 pages of Garcias. So if you show a Hispanic person a name, Lopez or some common name, there's a lot of names, and that gives them an idea. Hey, that could be one of my ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like John Smith. If you show John Smith, there's 100 millions of John Smith, Confederate soldier. That gives the guy some incentive. Is that my John Smith? It's the same way. So I use that book if I meet a Hispanic person, you know, during recruitment activities.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love searching for ancestors. I search. I mean, I make my father search because he's the guru in that department. He is just outstanding at finding ancestors. You would think Dawes is not a common last name, and it's not. But back then, a lot of people didn't ask how you spelt last names, and so they'd kind of guess. And there's some interesting variations of my last name in the history books.
Okay. Yeah. That's just, yeah, you're right. But Carol's in blue and gray, but again, Jerry D. Thompson. This book is about the Union soldiers, Unionistas, and their battles against the Confederates. And they list all the battles in Texas, and also list all the soldiers from both sides. Exclusively Tejanos, nobody else. So that's pretty by Jerry D. Thompson again. And that's Jose Rafael de la Garza in the cover. My fifth cousin, 4 times removed.
You told me that behind the scenes. I forgot about that. All right, and here I think it's the last.
Tejano Tiger, Jose de los Santos Benavides. It's his biography. He was an Indian fighter. He was in the Mexican Revolution as a young man and a Confederate officer. He was a legislator in Texas politics, from a prominent family. His great grandfather, I think, his last name was La Barra. He was the founder of Laredo, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's so many other books on this that we could talk about. Do you have any on the top of your head?
Yeah, I have the Men of Morris Trade. That's a really good book if you find it. It's out of print. But there's another book called it's called The Confederate Army of New Mexico. It details the 2nd Texas that was attached to Silby's brigade on their expansion west, Confederate expansion west. They lost the battle at Glorita Pass, but they fought in New Mexico on the way they were going to California for the ports and gold and to silver mines in Colorado Territory. They got stopped in Glorita, the Battle of Val Verde. So we were almost out there, almost made it to California. And it's called The Confederate Army of New Mexico by Martin Hardwick Hall. I don't know if you can see it.
We can see it a bit.
Yeah.
I might.
A really good book.
Actually, I'm going to ask you on air. Could you send me a couple of names of these books so I could post them on the page afterwards? For people who are wanting more information, we are happy to try our best to provide it. And so we're going to get some top-notch books recommended by Mr. Richard.
There's one more other thing. There's a website for all these guys are compatriots. They have Texans that fought this war. There's a site called Texas State Historical Association. Type in, let's say, 2nd Texas TSHA. If you want to do that, if you can do it from your screen. It's a free website, and it lists all the history of Texas, everything from the beginning to the end, to current. So it's a good reference for these guys that had Texas soldiers and their families, the units, what they did in the war, with as many hyperlinks to each subject. So this could go on and on and on.
Ooh, I like that. All
Texas
right.
State Historical Association.
Oh, wait. I spelled that wrong. Texas State. Oh, nope. I got it. All right. So for those.
Just type in a name or, that and that'll just lead you on and on to lots of subject matter related to Confederate Civil War. That's a really good resource.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to be looking up stuff all tonight now. The link is in the chat for people who want to get it. It will be posted after the show on our Facebook page as well. But if you want to go ahead and click on your phone, have that tab available, it is in the chat right now. Let's see here. I think that is all the pictures except for the special announcement.
Oh.
And we might have a couple questions. Kind of looking through the comments. This is not a question, but I like the comment. Monuments Across Dixie. If we don't tell these stories, who will? Amen. See here.
Also, too, is we need to support Alamo City Guards in their quest to stand up a Tejano monument. So please make donations, guys. This is very important.
Yeah, speaking of which, that link is in the chat if you guys want to go check that out. Of course, one of our spinoff shows, AGC Chat, ACG Chat. I thought I flipped it there for a minute. On our one of our spinoff shows, it is hosted by the commander of the Alamo City Guards Camp, Christian Lee, and he has done a fantastic job. I think the last episode, actually, they did a special announcement on the monument. So for any more information, you can, of course, go to their show directly and ask them, ask us, and, of course, we'll get them to answer for y'all. But, yeah, no, go support that monument in the chat. We are hoping anytime some breaking news comes on that monument, we will have Christian Lee to come on and talk about it. And, of course, we, SCV Chat, do want to be there live for that because that is going to be history in the making. I'm looking forward to that day because I'm pretty sure the only Tejano monument just says Hispanics served on both sides of the war. Yeah. And it's a plaque, and that's legit what it says, and that's it. And when Christian told me that, I was like, That's the best thing. That's the best we got. That's the best we could give them on that subject. I was like, really? No one's come up and decided to do this? Like, that's a shame. And so I'm so happy that they're doing it.
Yeah, so am I.
I cannot wait for that day. Yeah. We are going to have a celebration on this show, let me tell you. If anybody's got any questions, I don't think I couldn't find any. So I guess, do you want to talk about the special announcement? Because
the poster?
Yes, sir.
That's it, right?
Yes, sir. That's that.
Yeah. You got a photograph of it, do you?
Yes, sir. I got it right
here. There it is. Hey, guys, this is a poster you could use. I think we need to make themed posters for specific populations that we encounter. I mean, this is a poster for Hispanic people we could use so they could join SCV. There's a picture of Jose Rafael de la Garza and Santos Benavides. There's little sentence about over 30,000 men Hispanics fought. But I think if you put a face to these theme recruitment posters, we'll get more guys. I mean, there's a lot of Hispanic conservatives, especially in Texas. If they see two of their own on a recruitment poster, I think they might join SCV.
Oh yes, sir. And when you told me about this, I was just leaving my hunting land, getting ready for deer season. Us Mississippi people, but when you were texting me this message, and I was like, "Oh, I got an email. Let me go check my email." And I saw the poster, and I was like, I looked at it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome!" I went back and me and you text for a couple minutes about it. And so this is something else I've been looking forward to tonight. I've been really looking forward to this whole episode at this point. I have been just waiting for this one. But this is an awesome idea that y'all have had.
And we could change it to Black Confederate soldiers, change it to the Cherokees, to the Fighting Irish soldiers, and anybody. Just change the words a little bit and photograph. And just pass them out. I mean, we could do anything with this poster. So this is just this one, and hopefully we could get some other ones out there for different cultures, nationalities.
Yes, people need to know that we will represent their history, and we will do it arm in arm with you, and we cannot wait to do it. And when you told me about this, I was like, yes, finally. I have been hoping that we would be doing this for a while, so I cannot wait. My dad commented this. He said he absolutely agrees. We need to target all potential members, all ages, all races, all ethnic backgrounds, etc.
Yeah, these posters. We need these recruitment posters. I mean, make a list of them. Supplemental posters to go along with the original poster. Yes, and I have a PDF. If anybody wants it, they could email me, and I'll send them a PDF of this poster. So they could print.
Yeah, if you guys would message us, we will help contact with Mr. Richard and get y'all set up to do this. Because again, these need to be out there. It will help again with a personal connection, like Mr. John talks about in the comment section. And again, this is just way past due, in my opinion. I'm absolutely ecstatic for this, and I cannot wait to see more of this. So I'm definitely happy that you were able to come on and first off talk about all this lovely history, and then hit me with a surprise last minute. That's very enjoyable. One thing on the show is I get to see things a bit the rest of the SCV does, and it is awesome every time.
Right.
Never does the one perk of doing SCV chat work. All right. With that, though, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to read something that I wrote. We are educators and defenders of Confederate history. Therefore, we are designated as the gatekeepers to our legacy. I stress we must be steadfast, be truly committed to our Confederate ancestors, to our SCV charge, be valiant in our vision, be assertive and not retreat from the challengers, be visible and not conceal ourselves from the community, be proud and not hide our symbols and imagery in the darkness. We must do that. Long live the Confederacy. Viva la Confederación.
Wow, I don't think there's any more perfect way to end this episode. So I want to please thank Mr. Richard for coming on. Please share this episode. We want to flood. Again, I talked about this when we posted his face video. I wanted to flood social media with it, and we did a great job of doing that. 15,000 people, and hopefully more, have seen Mr. Garcia's face video, and that's just amazing. So let's get this information out there. Let's not just preach to the choir. Let's keep sharing it out there. Let's keep exposing people to this. So please share this episode. Here's some comments. Everybody is saying thank you. I wanted to give Mr. Garcia a pat on the back for coming on and doing an outstanding job tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And remember that Look Around the Confederation is at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Confederate channel. We will hopefully have I haven't talked to him this week, so I hope I'm still good on this. We have past Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Chuck McMichael, coming on. Hopefully he's still good. I guess I'll call him after the show and see if he's still good for Thursday. Bless his heart. And remember, you can email us at scvyouth@gmail.com, and you will be featured on the upcoming episode of Look Around the Confederation. Make sure you send us all your camp and division news. And I guess without further ado, it's time to sign off. Remember, we're hitting you with 2 back-to-back great episodes, starting off with this one, so share it. And then next week, we will celebrate the 100th episode of SCV Chat with Carl Jones as our guest, not our guest, but Carl Jones hosting with special guest Ben Jones, a.k.a. Crazy Cooter from the Dukes of Hazzard, live at 7 p.m. Confederate Standard Time, October 17th, live on Facebook and YouTube. So until then, we will see you guys Thursday. Again, thank you, Mr. Richard, for coming on and telling us this great history. And remember, everybody, share, share, share. And remember, no Fumar in the elevator. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, guys.